he makes me feel bad, this guy, Dr. Foy. He's always early and
He's early. What time is it? 4 in the
4 o'clock in the morning. He's always early, and we're the ones that are late at 11 o'clock.
When I was younger, I used to not go to bed before 4 o'clock. So.
Yeah, me also. My father would be going to work at 4 o'clock. Now it's coming home.
Okay, we're on the top of Daf Chav Gimel. And the Mishnah spoke about how many aliyahs you have on Monday and Thursday, Shabbos Mincha. Then it goes on to Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed, which we finished yesterday. And now it talks about Yom Tov, Yom Kippur, Shabbos. So the Mishnah said that Yom Tov is 5, Yom Kippur is 6, and Shabbos is 7. That's how we paskin. But the Gemara finds a brisa that has 2 opinions, and no one holds like our Mishnah. Masis and Mani, who is the author of our Mishnah? Lo Rabbi Shmuel, Lo Rabbi Kiva, neither. The Tanya, Yom Tov Chamisha, Yom Kippur, Shisha, Shabbos Shiva. So far it's good. That same order as our Mishnah, Yom Tov 5 aliyahs, Yom Kippur 6 aliyahs, Shabbos 7 aliyahs. Ain't pochsin mehen, you don't make less than that, also good. But then it says, Ain't mosifin alein. That's against our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says you could make hosafa. We did speak out of machlokes, we shown him, if that means only on Yom Tov, even on Yom Tov, Yom Kippur, and Shabbos, or only Shabbos, which we are machmir lachatchila not to make hosafas on Yom Kippur and Yom Tov, only on Shabbos. But here it says, Ain't mosifin alein at all, even on Shabbos. Rabbi Shmuel, it's against our Mishnah. Rabbi Kiva Omer Yom Tov Chamisha, Yom Kippur Shiva, B'Shabbos Shisha. He switches around the 6 and 7. He says Yom Kippur is 7 aliyahs and every Shabbos 6 aliyahs. That's Rabbi Kiva. Ein pochsin men aval musifin alein. This part is good. This part agrees to our Mishnah. You could make hosafas, but our Mishnah is neither. Mani, who's the author of our Mishnah? Rabbi Shmuel Kasha Tosefes, because Rabbi Shmuel says you cannot be mosif, and our Mishnah says you could. Rabbi Kiva Kasha Shisha V'Shiva, because our Mishnah says 6 and 7 is Yom Kippur is 6 and Shabbos is 7. He says the opposite, that Shabbos is 6 and Yom Kippur is 7. So Rabbi found another brisa which is going to be the same as our Mishnah. So we found somebody.
6 and 7?
Everyone has 6 and 7, but Rabbi Kiva says.
Where did he get that the 6 was?
Where did he get it from? Where do we get it from? Where does our Mishnah get the opposite from? That the Gemara is going to talk about, but. It doesn't say. Our Mishnah also doesn't say the reason.
Which is which?
Why? Which is which? It says. Our Mishnah says Yom Kippur is 6, Shabbos is 7. But why is it? Should it be that way? We didn't get into it. And the Brisa says the opposite order. He says Yom Kippur. Rabbi Kiva is a Tana. He holds the opposite. He says that Yom Kippur is 7, Shabbos is 6.
I'm asking where he gets that from.
Where do we get it from? Where does our Tana get the opposite from? You're asking. He's arguing on a Mishnah. He's an authority. He's Rabbi Kiva. Okay. If you ask what the reason is, you have to ask on our Mishnah also what's the reason.
Okay.
So we said some reason that Yom Kippur is Shabbos is more than Yom Kippur because it's Chiyuv Skila. That's why it's more. And what are we going to say here? Why is Yom Kippur more than Shabbos?
Does it get Koresh?
No, Koresh is less than Skila. So you're saying that he has to have a reason. I understand that. You're saying our Mishnah said a reason, and he doesn't tell us the reason. Okay, I got it. That it doesn't say the reason. But the Gemara is asking that the Mishnah is neither author. Who's the author of our Mishnah? So the more I found somebody, I found the Tana that says the same as our Mishnah, and that's going to be the author. Tana the Rabbi Shmuel, which just we said a second ago, Rabbi Shmuel said differently. But we found Rabbi Shmuel that says the same. The Tana the Rabbi Shmuel, Yom Tov Chamisha. Everybody agrees to that. Yom Tov Shisha, Yom Kippur Shisha, B'Shabbos Shiva, Mamash our Mishnah, Ein Pochsim Hen Aval Mosif Hanalei, beautiful. Mamash same as our Mishnah, Divrei Rabbi Shmuel. That's how we pass like our Mishnah. And we found the author also. We found 2 people that argue, but we found our Mishnah is a somebody.
Why do we need Divrei Rabbi Yishmael? We had Tana Divrei Rabbi Yishmael.
But here it's
I see. Then the quote starts.
This is the quote, right. This is, and it says here, which Rabbi Shmuel. And Tana Rabbi Shmuel means the Tana of the Shiva of Rabbi Shmuel, which seems to be the same as Rabbi Shmuel. Okay. But now the Gemara is a problem because Rabbi Shmuel before said the opposite. Rabbi Shmuel in the first brisa was quoted as saying, "Ein mosifin al land," and here that was the whole problem. And here he says mosifin al land, but it's contradicting himself. Rabbi Shmuel, he's contradicting himself. The answer is Rabbi Shmuel. It's really machlokes what Rabbi Shmuel said. And our Tana is like the other Tana, the last one that says that you could be Mosif, and the order is Yom Kippur is 6 and Shabbos is 7, but that's how we pass and everything's good. Man Tan Lada Tan, who's the author of the following brisa? The Yom Tov Ma'achron Lovo Mamaron Latzes, the Yom Kippur Mamaron Lovo Ma'achron Latzes, but for Shabbos Mamaron Lovo Mamaron Latzes. Here it talks about the length of davening, not the length of davening as much as the time of davening. It says in Yom Tov you come late and you leave early. It means that the Yom Tov davening starts later than a regular davening, a regular Shabbos davening. Right? Yeah, I got that right. but you leave early, means you leave, the davening is over
Later
early,
than what?
than usual,
During the non-Yom Tov,
then non-Yom Tov, right? We'll see in a second. There are three things there. There's Yom Tov,
because there's more.
and then there's,
Psukim,
you're jumping, and there's Yom Kippur, and then there's Shabbos.
okay.
So, in Pesukah de Zimra, by yes, it's the same by all three of them. Yom Kippur, Shabbos, and Yom Tov, all of the same Pesukah de Zimra.
We're not comparing it to daily. Okay. We're
What?
not comparing it to daily.
What do you think? You're already into Yotzer, that you have extra, that's Shabbos are longer than Shabbos. No, it doesn't say. It says Yom Tov is, the davening starts later and ends earlier. Yom Kippur, it starts earlier and ends later, long davening. And Shabbos, the Maran Lot says, it starts early and it ends early, which means that it doesn't have any, it's not extreme. It doesn't say what time it's supposed to be. Rashi points out that Maran Lava should be sunrise. Rashi points that out. Maran Lava, Rashi says, means Shavim Basikin. And here it sounds like Yom Tov, you don't daven Basikin, you start later. We'll see in a second, then we'll see Rashi. So far, it says there's a comparison between Yom Tov and Kippur and Shabbos. Yom Tov is the shortest, and Kippur is the longest. Shabbos is average. It also happens to be that it's early. It's early leave, early start, and early end. But Shabbos is the average. Yom Kippur is long, Yom Tov is shorter. And
Yom Kippur, we would say because of Ne'ilah, right? It's going to have more.
It doesn't sound like that. It sounds like Ne'ilah, you come back to shul again for Ne'ilah, probably.
What?
I imagine that Ne'ilah, you come back again to daven. People are used to being in shul the whole day.
About chakras?
Yes, it sounds like that. Chakras, maybe Musaf also, that's what it sounds like. But not the whole day. I'm sorry, Chaim David?
No, because you have all the al-khaits, tons of schools.
The Yemenites have al-khaits, they have 6 al-khaits.
Well, maybe you should become one.
But our davening is very long, but it doesn't seem it was so long in the old days. It definitely, our davening got longer as things developed, our davening got longer. But the Gemara is looking, why should the order be that Yom Kippur is so longer than Shabbos? What is that? So the Gemara says something we never would dream of, which I still don't understand it. Is it because Rabbi Akiva holds that Yom Kippur has one more aliyah than Shabbos? The order would be Yom Kippur has the most aliyah, 7 aliyah. Shabbos has 6 aliyah. Shabbos has 5 aliyahs. Is that going to be the reason why Yom Tov is the shortest, Yom Kippur is the longest? Because the one aliyah. But that's what's the big deal about an aliyah?
Oh, it's the shortest, so people can come later.
Because it means the davening can start later because we have plenty of time because only have to have 5
then
aliyahs.
They would leave earlier.
It's only 5 aliyahs. 5 aliyahs. No, you're not leaving before the shul. The shul is over early because it's a short davening. You only have 5 aliyahs. And
Maharin.
it doesn't mean you leave before the shul is over.
Means they came late.
Doesn't mean that means everything. It means the gabbai on the shul where he writes it's davening time. Yom Tov is going to davening and it'll be over.
And then the next word is a different word, right? It's that they're fast to go out. Maharin, let's say.
I'm not following. But Yom Tov, on the shul sign, on the billboard, on the bulletin board, it says over there that the davening starts late and we're going to finish early.
Yeah. Okay.
Not about a certain person. He's going to leave early or
I
come late.
understand.
Okay, Yom Kippur, we say we're going to start earlier. The davening starts earlier than usual and it ends later than usual. And Shabbos, it starts early and it ends early. So the one wants to know why should it be that order? That Yom Kippur is the longest and then Shabbos and then Yom Tov. It sounds like how many aliyahs you have. That's very, very strange, l'chara. The aliyah is going to make the whole big difference. How long is an aliyah? You don't even by us, we don't read more or less according to how many aliyahs. You just divide it differently. If you have 5 aliyahs or 7 aliyahs, it's just going to be a difference of how you divide the parsha, not how much you're going to read. You're not going to read more.
Wouldn't even be saying brachas.
And they didn't even say bracha. So what?
Brachas for everything.
So it's just standing up. Next person comes up. Yamotzim, no mishaberach, no nothing. So what takes so long? I don't understand. But the Gemara thinks that that's what it means. That the whole issue the Bryce is coming to him to is the point about how many aliyahs there are, and then it'll be against our Mishnah. But the Gemara says no, it could be like our Mishnah. Afilu tema Rabbi Yishmael. The nafesh yidur the yoma. The seder hayom is longer. Yom Kippur has a longer seder hayom. What seder hayom? The rest of the davening. So it might mean. I think it means
the middle bracha.
Which middle bracha?
You have 3 at the beginning, 3 at the end, and Seder Hayom is in the middle.
So Yom Kippur is not so long. It's not much longer than Shabbos. It's the video. The video might be at the end. It's after Shemona Esrei, maybe. I thought also it's referring to the Seder Hayom would mean Musaf. That Musaf is to say the Seder Avoda. So the Musaf of Yom Kippur is long because of that.
The Musaf.
That's what I would think. If anybody has a different shot, ask for anybody. I thought it means Seder Hayom means that Musaf, because you're supposed to say, even though nowadays we also see a lot of piyutim, it's very long. But even without the piyutim, but in Musaf, they did the Seder
The
Avoda.
Musaf of Yom Tov is going to be shorter than the Musaf of the Shabbos.
The third bracha is longer.
Which thing is longer?
Third bracha after Kaddish.
Why is it longer? That's later. That's that's later. That's the Gaonim. It's not from the Gemara.
Okay.
So that's not what the Gemara meant. And what are you saying, Lev Yaakov?
Why would
Yom
the
Tov.
Musaf of Yom Tov
Be the
be shorter
shortest.
than Shabbos? It seems like those Musafs.
What is
You're
Shabbos?
saying that the
In what
Musaf-
way is Shabbos longer than Yom Tov? Yom Tov is longer than Shabbos. Yom Tov davening. What is how can it be
longer
that
than
Shabbos
Shabbos.
is longer than Yom Tov? In what way? The Gemara is just talking about Yom Kippur and Shabbos, it seems. So I don't know. What way is Yom Tov shorter than Shabbos? Rashi has something else. Rashi brings from Masechah Sof from the Charan Gemara. Rashi brings that on Yom Tov you have to prepare the Suda. They used to shecht and they used to roast, a lot to do, and then cut up a butcher on Yom Tov. On Yom Tov you're allowed to do Achol Nefesh. On Shabbos everything is prepared already before.
So before you come to shul.
So before you come to shul, you have to prepare all that stuff. It sounds like you're allowed to do before davening also, and that's what he says from Masechah Sofrim that you come late because you have to take care of Suda before
I
davening.
like that.
Memar and says because Simchas Yom Tov. So we want you to start to do Suda right away. Shabbos, everything is ready already, so there's nothing to do. So come earlier, Kivasikin, why not? And Memar and Lot says because start the meal right away. Yom Kippur, there's no food, there's no rush. But Agamar talks about the davening, either the aliyahs or about the davening. Rashi brings down Masechah Sofrim talks about the Suda. The Masechah Sofrim is called Sofrim. Okay, that's the end of that sugya. And we came out that we have our
Very
Mishnah.
clear, right?
What?
For our purposes, it's very unclear because we don't know what's going on with.
Why? We don't do it like this. It comes out. We don't do that. Shabbos is Yom Tov is less than Shabbos.
So where did
We
everything
come.
change?
We just come late by
Where did
mistake.
everything change around from the?
Well, one thing is,
to-
I don't know, but the one thing is that we don't have any big preparations of Yom Tov more than Shabbos. Everything is also prepared. We don't have any big tircha to do before davening to get the Suda ready because everything is already like Shabbos. We don't shecht, we don't do anything. And it doesn't
We make
take.
our coffee. Did I do that on Shabbos?
See, you put the water first, you put the coffee first. It's not going to make a difference in
No, but
time.
I'm just thinking now, it could be a megillah to cook some things on Yom Tov. Things that taste
Yeah, yeah, so
fresher
good.
on Yom Tov
Good.
could cook
Yeah.
on Yom Tov.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my wife was there. She always thinks.
So the women are going to do that, but the men are going to shul, and the women are not going to shul. Okay.
So what's going on? What did they used to do then?
The men used to shech, and the men used to make the fire
Yeah,
and cut and butcher all of the meat that they're going to cut up. There's work for the men. Nowadays,
On Yom Tov.
yeah, sure. That's the whole Maseches Beitza. You start shechting and you start cutting up an animal, and then you have to salt
What is
it.
we lazy? What's wrong with us? We get everything else ready made. It's just like
Lazy. It's a bracha. It's a bracha.
Okay, next
You
one.
wanna
First,
your electricity?
first white line. Now the Gemara goes on to the list. We said there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And for some reason, the Gemara is picking out 3, 5, and 7. Means that on a Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos Mincha is 3, Yom Tov is 5, Shabbos is 7. We're leaving out the 4 of Rosh Chodesh and Chol Hamoed and the 6 of Yom Kippur. The Gemara is going to come back to the 6 of Yom Kippur later on, about 10 lines later. But the Gemara picked out 3, 5, and 7 because the Gemara finds something about 3, 5, and 7, which is very strange. The Gemara is going to say that the 3, 5, 7 of a weekday, Shabbos Mincha, and Yom Tov and Shabbos has some seder of 3, 5, and 7. Very strange.
By
Because
the way, there's 3 words in Yerech Hashem Yishmer.
you're ahead of us. You're ahead of us. You're ahead of us. You can see that you're on the fourth line already. We're in the first white line. What do we have corresponding to 3, 5, and 7? That there's a machlokas between these two Amoraim. Yitzchak ben Nachmani and somebody. There's his chavus achad imei. Who's that? Rav Shimon ben Pazi. Some have the opposite gersa. Amar Rav Shimon ben Pazi v'chad imei. Who is Rav Yitzchak ben Nachmani? So far, it's the same people, but machlokas of these two people. Amar Rav Shmuel ben Nachmani. Instead of Rav Yitzchak ben Nachmani, have a gersa Rav Shmuel ben Nachmani. But a machlokas. Chad Amar. What Chaim David said. Keneged Birchas Kohanim. Birchas Kohanim is 3, 5, and 7. 3. Yivrach Hashem v'yishmerecha. Then the second pasuk is 5. Third pasuk is 7. Says the 3, 5, and 7 over there. So here too. This is corresponding that creates a Torah of 3 aliyahs of the weekday and 5 aliyahs of Yom Tov and 7 aliyahs of Shabbos is 3, 5, and 7. I don't understand that.
That's very nice, but it's got nothing to do with
Nothing to
all
do
the
with
different
Chol Hamoed
options
and,
of what's happened to Rosh Chodesh, what happened.
Right, there's a 4 and a 6 that you ignore. You just talk about 3, 5, and 7 and say here 3, 5, and 7. Doesn't Doesn't sound rational. I don't understand.
3, 5, 7. Yeah,
You're
yeah.
skipping the
What
4 and the
about- yeah,
6.
what about Yom Kippur?
So the Gemara is going to come into a 6 something else, but the Gemara still teaches 3, 5, and 7. That's one machlok. That's one mandama. Birchas Kohanim. V'chad amar keneged Shlosh Shomer Yasaf. Chamisha Rot Meiro Pnei Melech. Shiva. There's also a gears of Meiro. Shiva Meiro Pnei
What is
Melech.
Shomer Hassan?
Shlosh Shomer Yasaf. The 3 door guards. That
What is
is
Asaf?
Asaf is the threshold.
Oh.
Not the hay is not part of the word. The hay is a prefix.
Mhm.
Asaf.
That's the whole idea.
Right. So it talks about Shlosha Shomer Yasaf. Where is that? That's a pasuk in Malachim and in Yirmiyah. It talks about the end where it says that they exiled the Jews. So it says that the Goyim found from the Jews 3 of these are all the royalty, the honor guard. There was royal positions. There was the Shomer Yasaf and there was the Roei Pnei Melech. You find that also in Megillah Esther, the Roei Pnei Melech. But you find that by the Jews. The Jews also had Roei Pnei Melech, and it says they had 7. One place says they had 5. One place says they had 7. Taisus brings down just to point out that Taisus brings the psukim in Yirmiyah and in Malachim. Taisus says then in Yirmiyah, Perek 52, it says over there 7, and in Kings 2, Perek 25, it says over there in the same pasuk, but it says 5 instead of 7. And that's what the Gemara means when it says that there are 5 and 7. We find 3 royal positions, one of 3 guards, and one about 5 and one of 7 that they said they're next to the king, Roy Pnei Melech, the ones who are close to the king. So because of these 3 positions, we made a takana of 3, 5, and 7 aliyahs, something to do with royalty. Rashi says, Tiknu elu me'ein tvar malchus. They made these amounts of aliyahs because something about the royalty. So that's the second pshat. We have 2 pshatim. One was Brechas Kohanim, 3, 5, and 7. One was because of the 3, 5, and 7 that we find by the royal positions.
Well, excuse me, what's the difference between 5 seeing the king's face and
7.
seeing?
So it must be that they are. So here, Toshis brings down the Yerushalmi says that those 2 are the Sofri Adayanim, the royal scribes, and that's why sometimes they're counted, sometimes they're not. Rashi also says the 5 and the 7, the 2 that you're missing between 5 and 7. It says Roy Pnei Melech 2 times. So
It's not different people.
it could be 5 of the 7. It seems the pasuk is referring to the same people. One time it calls them 5, one time it calls them 7. So they left out 2 of them. Which ones did they leave out? Taisus brings down to the Yerushalmi Sofri Adayanim, the royal scribes. Rashi doesn't say what they are, but Rashi says that they're not as chashuv. That the ish chamisha chashuvim. There are 5 that are considered the chashuvim. Rashi brings down the pasuk by
The 7
Achashverosh.
are different? Or what?
No, there are 5 out of the 7
What about the 7?
that are chashuv.
Well,
2 of them are not
that's
so
pretty
chashuv.
Why are we saying 3, 5, and 7?
So
You're saying 5 and
sometimes,
7 are really the same.
right?
people.
Sometimes we count them as
Two.
5. Sometimes we count them as 7. If you'd
Yeah,
like
but
to,
Yom Tov isn't the same as Shabbos. It's not like
right.
Yom Tov is sort
If
of
you'd
like
like to,
Shabbos.
if you say not like Rashi and Tosfos, and not like the Yerushalmi, I would say like you that there was a 5 and there was a 7, and one pasuk in Yirmiyah and Malachim, even though they're quoting the same episode, but one time it calls it 5, one time it calls it 7, and there's 2 different positions, groupings. But the difficulty would be that it's quoting the same episode. Over there, it's talking about the officials that the Goyim found and exiled or killed over there. So it does seem to be referring to the same episode. It's come out the same pasuk, word for word. So that's why they say that it's 5 of the 7. And you're asking,
What is
why
that?
should we make a difference between Yom Tov and Shabbos?
Yeah.
So one is going to be for all of them. One is going to be connected only some of them. Okay,
Just the fact
I
that
don't
it's
know.
stated, so it's somehow.
Right. So we see the 3, 5, and the 7. I'm glad you want to say something.
Yeah, what about the caution, the 7, the day 18 within? There was a 7 by Achashverosh.
Happens to be Rashi brings
I
that.
just wrote it. A few minutes ago.
So Rashi does bring that down. Rashi says,
Seven,
That's
"V'achashverosh
for sure,
I
Mark.
didn't
Shiva
understand the question.
Shiva Sarei Parasa Modan." But Tosfos doesn't like that because he says, "What do we have to do with Achashverosh? Russia." So okay, could be, but there's no reason to do that because it's much stronger that it talks about in Yirmiyah 52 and Malachim 25 over there that it says the same pasuk over there, and one place it says 7, one place it says 5. Also, so it's much stronger to say this pshat, and also just to point out that Rashi says this was Chamisha Mei Roei Pnei Melech and Shiva Roei Pnei Melech. It means altogether there was 7, and 5 of those 7, the Mei Roei.
nice. Uh-huh.
But if you look at the pasuk, both of them say Mei Roei. So
That's
the
in
Rashi,
Yirmiyah, right?
yeah, both of them. It's much simpler not to have that girsa, even though it might be 5 of the 7, but the pasuk says both times Mei Roei. Anyway, it seems to be a machlokus, and now Tani of Yosef, if Yosef had a brisa, that's going to be like one of them. Shlosha Chamisha Veshiva, Shlosha Shomer Yasav, Chamisha Mero Pnei Melech, Shiva Mero Pnei Melech. So he has a price that says like the second opinion, not like the first opinion of Birchas Kohanim. Amalei Abaye, Adi Idam my time lo Parish Lo Mar. Abaye told Rav Yosef, you had a price, why didn't you tell me till now? Amalei Levi Adani Tzrichisuli Lei Umi Bisu Mino Milsa V'Lo Amilahu. I didn't know that you needed it. Did you ask me? And I didn't tell you. If it would have asked me, I didn't tell you. You can have time. That's why I didn't tell you. But you never asked me. How should I know? If you have a question, you should have asked me. You happy with that? It's good. If Yosef said something, Abai said, why didn't you tell me ever? He said, because you never asked. Okay.
Didn't have what to ask because he didn't know that.
The Gemara says a new point. Amalei Yaakov Mina Rav Yehuda. Rav Yaakov Mina said to Rav Yehuda about the 6. He said 3, 5, and 7. Now about the 6. Hani Shisha Demikipum connected me. That's Yaakov Mina. It sounds a little bit like Yaakov the heretic. That's what it sounds like. So Tais doesn't like that because why should we talk about a heretic? And Tais says that about his name. We shouldn't mention the name. So he says a different girsa Matzah instead of Mina. Matzah. Some say that even if it's Mina, it means from the city of Min. But it wasn't Apikoros whose name was Yaakov, but the Gemara doesn't want to. It seems that the Rishonim don't think that that's what the Gemara is referring to. So he asked him, not any heretical question. How come they made a takana of 6 Aliyah Yom Kippur?
How come they did?
What is it? What is it corresponding to? We spoke about 3, 5, 7. Also, just to point out,
I'm curious about the Lev Yaakov's question. Why they're not mentioned in the first 3, in the 3, 5, 5, and 7?
Because it's not there. That's why it wasn't mentioned. Because there is no 6 over there. There's 3, 5, and 7. There's either Birchas Kohanim, like you said. The Gemara has that upshot about Shlosha Shomer Yasav, Chamisha Pena. It doesn't have 6 over there. So that's why I didn't say it before, because it wasn't included. They didn't answer it. Just to point out that by the 3, the Gemara said a page ago that has to do with the Torah V'im Ksuvim, Kanal V'im V'Yisraelim. The Gemara where they said other pshat, and then the 3. Tais asked the kasha a page ago. Rabbi Kvega points it out. But the Gemara wants to know what's the 6 about. There's a story in the Navi that it says Ezra made a big gathering, and I think it says over there that he read the Torah, and over there it says that there were 6 people on his right side, 6 people on his left side.
Why would it say Sheish Midrash, Sidra Mishnah?
Oh, it doesn't say that. I don't know. Why doesn't it say
Don't
that?
they know Chad Gad Yah?
Why don't they say the
They know
6
Chad
Yom
Gad Yah.
Kippur?
They could come up- If you want to come up with a number, it's
No, so maybe it has nothing to do with Yom Kippur. Why should that have to do with Yom Kippur? The Sheish Sidra Mishnah. They must look something that has to do with Yom Kippur. The 3, 5, and 7, for some reason, it has to do with Yontif, Shabbos, and this. I don't know the answer either. And just to tell you the truth, I don't know the 6 the Gemara is going to say here either. I also don't know what has to do with Yom Kippur. Ezra over there wasn't Yom Kippur, it was Rosh Hashanah. The first over there says was the first of the 7th month. So what's the? And I looked around. If anybody asked the kasha, I didn't find.
Yes,
that-
but it's Malchus because he's sitting together, he's gathering the people together as a melech would do, as a nasi.
Okay,
So that it fits into the category of the previous.
okay, maybe nice.
3, 5, and 7.
So it says Ezra stood on a migdal, on a tower, like a stage that was made for the issue that they made over there. Vayamod etzlo. Who stood next to him? Matisya, B'Shema, Vanaya, Buriya, V'Chilkiya, Masaya, Limino. That's 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And with Smolo on his left side, Kedaya, Umishael, Umalchiya, V'Chashum, V'Chashbadana, Zechariah, Meshulam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It says also Meshulam. That's a problem. The Mars Akasha, so it's 7. Hani Shiva Havu. Why are you telling me 6? Since he counted 7. The answer is Hainu Zechariah, Hainu Meshulam. The last 2 is one person. Zechariah Meshulam. Like, yeah, 2 names. Zechariah Meshulam. And the Gemara says, why is it called Meshulam? B'mai karo Meshulam. The Mishlam B'ovdei. He's perfect. The word Meshulam is like
It's the same
Mushlam.
person.
It's the same person. So he's called Chaim Meshulam. We have here a source of somebody that has 2 names. Nowadays, a lot of people have 2 names. His name was Chaim Meshulam. Why was he nicknamed Meshulam? Because of his perfection.
There is a Yotzeit, a Meshulam, Zusha Meshulam, Ben Lipa, Ben Yom Tov
Today?
Lipa.
I know, but the writer had 2,
Yeah.
they had 2 names.
Oh, it's a nickname.
There's one name or a nickname.
I think they could be. The Gemara, the Gemara left out 4. We talked 3, 5, and 7, and about 6. We left out 4. So Taisus has the kasha. Second line of Taisus kasha. What happened to that? So Taisus says that the Gemara is happy that the Gemara didn't talk about 4.
4 Imahos.
What does it have to do with Rosh Chodesh? Oh, that would be nice. That would be nice. Rosh Chodesh with the Emos. That would be nice. Okay, I don't know.
That's why they rest.
Chol Hamoed?
They have to rest on
They should.
You should rest on Rosh
They
Chodesh.
should also rest on the Chol Hamoed.
Okay, I don't know. The Gemara says that the Gemara understood that the Musaf that it says that it has a Musaf, that was enough reason to add on an Aliyah. that the more understood. But the fact that Yom Tov is Esa Malacha, Yom Kippur is Koros, and Shabbos is Kilo, that the Gemara doesn't think is the real reason that it should be a reason to add on an Aliyah. So the Gemara is looking that it must have been corresponding to something. It could have been only a simon before. It's only a simon to remember. But the actual reason, the Gemara says this is the reason. 3, 5, and 7, as we said, and 6 here is because of the 6 people on either side of Ezra when he read the Torah on Rosh Hashanah. Just throw that in. Just to get the over there, the pasuk says it was
But I
Rosh
have
Hashanah.
a caution there because really not 6, it's 12.
It's 6 and 6.
Yes, but it's 12. Add them up. Why are you just taking the right separately from the left? It's
Don't you know that right isn't
not
left?
left.
And left is not right.
It's still 12.
Okay. And that would ask there should be 12 aliyahs.
I think
Yom
it's
You
Kippur.
want to
got
use
you.
those.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Next sugya, further into Kriyas Torah. Everybody can get an
What
aliyah.
the 12, 6 wings of the what do you call it? There's 2 sheet of Yeshayahu's.
Why does it have to do with Yom Kippur?
It's to do with carrying the tefillahs up to.
Okay. Maybe another
it says
reason.
that the train.
Chaim David is suggesting another reason for 6 on Yom Kippur.
What is that?
6 wings of the angels of this. Is it of the cherubims or is it of the?
What about the Kisei Kavod? Didn't it have some-
Okay. Everybody's welcome.
You have this in yellow because we're out of Purim now, right? So
No,
these
you
are
know,
not psukim.
Not psukim, but this is the highlighting of the
Right,
topic
the
of the
highlighting
sugya. The sugya, what's the sugya?
Sugya.
The main points of the sugya, if it helps anybody. Everybody counts into the numbers after 7 aliyahs on Shabbos. A katan can get an aliyah, and he counts for the number 7, and a woman could
For the number 7.
for the number 7.
They can
Not
count,
only they can
meaning the 7th?
of
or-
the 7 aliyahs, so you can get an aliyah. Or a katan
Oh.
can get an aliyah. So a katan is a mission later on. It's coming up tomorrow. Katan Kori B'Torah. Here it says it even counts as one of the 7, and also a woman. But it says that it's not. Minadin is okay, but kvod tzibor that a woman should be reading for men, not kvod tzibor. That men couldn't get a man to read.
So that's
So.
what's going on with all these ladies.
So some would say that's what's going on with the ladies, but it's not what's going on. What's going on is they want to, they're not coming because there's a sugya and the woman is kosher, covered at tzibur different nowadays. They're not coming like that. They're coming to destroy the Torah and anything, and if it wouldn't make a difference if it is or not. And one of the Rabbanim said that it's not the issue to get involved if it's mutter or not, because that's not their issue. That you're falling into that trap. They don't want that. They don't care. They want you to think as if it's mutter. That's not the point. The point is not to wear tefillin, not to read the Torah. They're not so holy, saying tefillin the whole day that they also want to have time to be able to read the Torah. Also, they want to destroy the Judaism. That's what they aimed for. So we don't have to think. It's a nice point, but it's not their point. Their point is not that Michal Bashal wore tefillin and that it says here that a woman could read the Torah. That's not their point. So we have to talk to them their language.
But it isn't. There's nothing about Nida that has anything to do with reading.
No, it does say something in the Shulchan Aruch brings down something in the Ramah, and that's something about the Kriyas Torah that it says the custom was that the women didn't come into the shul when they were in Nida, but the people don't have
It has
this
nothing to do with
reading the Torah, right?
with
Doesn't have
reading.
the. I mean, right? There's no. There's only a din
I'm not saying
of.
what they're doing. These are
Right.
not all
Yeah, nothing to do with the Nida. Yeah, nothing to do with that. A kosher woman, the din that says here the woman can read the Torah, that would be even if she's in Nida. There's no difference. Same way a man that has Tumah
The same
besides
thing, a
Baal
woman could dance with the Torah on Simchas Torah in terms of.
she could dance with the Torah in her house with the
in her
Sefer Torah.
house,
Yeah.
in her house.
Yeah, but now she wants to do it in the tzibur. That's because they want to break down the customs, the
I'm not
people who are
talking about
doing
breaking
that.
it down. I'm just talking
Yeah.
about the halachas
Yeah,
of the
there's
Torah
not,
and a
yeah,
woman. It's not a problem.
it's okay. There was a custom that a woman, when she was in Nida, she didn't look at the Sefer Torah, and that she didn't come into the shul even. It's brought down in the Ramah. But these customs now, they dissolved. No such customs anymore.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm
But-
talking about I've heard of a woman's minion in a house.
Yes,
It's only women and somebody lanes in a house.
without aliyahs. They make aliyahs. They do make aliyahs. They're going to make 7 aliyahs of
They
women.
don't- they don't-
There's no
they don't
minion.
say the bracha.
There's no bracha.
That would be a nice thing, no?
Mhm.
No, I'm talking about like in a kosher way that they got psak that they could do.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, good. So there's a question over here that if they're kosher, so they're not kosher because they're covered at tzibur, like it says here. So what do we gain by saying that a woman can have an aliyah? Then it says it can have an aliyah.
Uh-huh.
So the Yavit says that if there's nobody else to read, so then she could read. If you need a woman to read, the men don't know how to read, only a woman. So He says that they're really kosher, just as a side issue. The Gemara wants to tell you that this is inherently they're okay to get an aliyah, just as a side problem. But if the side problem, sometimes a side problem, we override it. The Gemara continues in Usagi.
They can only lane mafta, they can't lane the regular.
Who?
A woman.
Why?
She can lane from.
That's what it says. All of the minion shoe. All of the minion shoe. That's what it says.
From the Torah?
Yeah, that's what it says.
What about Kol Isha?
And so it could be that they're not going to do it. They're not going to sing. They're just going to say it.
No, man, they do it with the Kamim.
So maybe not. If they're men over there, then maybe not. Then not. Then they'll say it just to say it without singing. I'm suggesting. And a katan, this point, a katan also. It's not a sugi. The Gemara's not going to go into. The Gemara finished. We're going to the next sugi already. Tomorrow's sugi is going to be about a katan again. But a katan says you get in a regular aliyah. Nowadays the minig is not to, but the Yemenites do. They want to do give ktanim very beautiful, but the custom by Ashkenazim is not.
Below.
Only mafti, below bar mitzvah. But mafti, yes.
So if a woman can lane from
Torah,
then she can lane the megillah also. If she's the only one that can do it. Right? I mean, she can-
L'chari, you're right. Women also chayiv in Kriyas HaMegillah. L'chari, you're right. Oh no, it's a taisvus. You're right. I call Kshem Lukas as Megillah, but there's a taisvus in the beginning of the Masechta around Daf that talks about that maybe the chiyuv of the women is not the same as the men, so it'll be less different than Kriyas Torah. And she says over there that maybe not. Where's that only for women? Where's that taisvus? 1 second.
I don't remember exactly the details. There was no man that could lane, and there was a diyun if they could have a woman laning for the man. I don't remember what the answer was, but they said it happened. This question happened.
It seems like we.
And Taisvus, I'm sorry,
They say.
Let's talk about it. That's Taisvus talks about and Daf Dalit. There's a Taisvus says we can't mashmash hanashim otzi says hachem yidei chavas that she could read, but then he says there's a Tosefta that says that a tumtum cannot be motzi. Means if he's not surely a man, so then he cannot be motzi. So from there he has a problem that it sounds like a woman cannot.
Tumtum's not a woman.
It's a suffix woman. It's a suffix.
A woman's not a woman.
What's it? No. So either a man or it's either a man or a woman. A tumtum is either a man or a woman.
Right.
But it's not worse than a woman. If a woman can be motzi, so a tumtum can be motzi. So that faces brings it right that a woman cannot be motzi a man. Why are you confused?
Because the tumtum's got a blemish.
No. It's either a man or a woman. That's we can't tell. It's not androgynous. You're talking about androgynous that he has both. Then he's maybe something else. Very asthma. But a tumtum is just that we can't tell because it's covered up. But he has the simanim either a man or he's definitely either a man or a woman. Just we don't know. But he's not worse than a woman. So that's what Taisa's problem is. The Gemara doesn't look at it like that. The Gemara says not like that. So therefore, the Gemara says that Dalit has an issue about a woman being motzi a man. But here it says Kriyas Torah, it's different. And a katan also, you see, a katan cannot be motzi megillah. Pashas the Mishnah says, and could be ola. So they say there must be a difference between Kriyas Torah and Kriyas Megillah. Kriyas Torah is like a learning, so it's like a public learning. But Kriyas Megillah is a mitzvah. Look, I'm Mikra Megillah, so that may be only if he's mechuyev b'davar. He would have thought so, but it's counterintuitive.
Then it's less likely that a woman could read the Megillah for others. Is that what I'm
Right.
saying?
There's an issue about that. Taisvus Avdallah, it says maybe a woman cannot be motzi a man. Ibaylu, is everything good? Ibaylu maftir maush nusugya mau maftir shiyalu minyan shiva. Maftir is the one who reads the Navi, and he gets an aliyah in the Torah also. Does he count for the 7? Do you give 7 aliyahs and the 7th one reads the Navi, or do you give an 8th one to read the Torah again? I said a word again. I take it back. Do you give 7 aliyahs and then you give an 8th aliyah to somebody who's going to read the Navi? He reads the Torah also. He has to read the Torah also. These 3 psukim. So is he counted in the count of 7? Is it going to be 7? And the 7th one is going to read the Maftir, or you give 7, then you give an 8th one who's going to get the Navi? What do?
We do an 8th. No, we do an 8th one. We do an 8th one. You call up Maftir.
You call up Shvi, right? Yamod Shvi, and then you call up Maftir. There's an 8th person.
Say Kaddish.
Is it not?
Yeah, that's not.
You do that. You're a gabbai, no?
I always do 7.
You call up 7.
Right?
Yamod Shishi, Yamod Shvi, and then you get it. Then you say Kaddish, and then you get a Maftir. So somebody else. What do you do in the time of Sibor by Mincha? They read Vayichal.
The third aliyah,
So-
the fourth aliyah.
No.
There's no
Third. There's not.
There's
So we see we do it that way also. We do that. We don't give it. We do both minhagim, it seems, right? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So let's see the sugya. Some say The one says that he counts for the 7. Some say he doesn't. Mandama ola the Kori. He's reading. Why not? Why shouldn't he count for the 7? Mandama eno ola kedula. Dama ulam ipnei ma'am after ben avitzach shikra b'torah tchila ipnei kvod Torah. Why do we give the maftir navi to read the Torah? Really, he's forgetting maftir. Maftir really means that the navi. We call maftir. He's reading. That's what he is. So how can we? Why does he read the Torah?
Yeah,
Why should he read the Torah? Just give him navi. Call 7 people for the Torah, and then call somebody for the navi. Why are you giving him also to read the Torah? The reason is maybe they cover the Torah. Rashi says they shouldn't equate the navi to the Torah. If you're going to give aliyah to the Torah, aliyah to the navi, it looks like they're equal. So it's not putting things in the proper perspective. You have to make the Torah should be more. So even the person who reads the navi also should read the Torah, but it's not a real reading. It's not inherently.
But it'll be read already. He's reading it again.
No, so Chaim David is saying a point that the mafta is rereading. That's not a given. We do like that, but it's not a given. And even we sometimes also don't. Sometimes the mafta reads something new, like by Yantif, right? The mafta reads something else. They didn't read. And Taisa says, Taisa proves from the Gemara that the Gemara son didn't do that. Our minhag is that the mafta rereads. But Taisa says the time of the Gemara, they would have 7 aliyahs, and he would not read till the end, and the mafta would get another, the 8th one would read what was not yet read. It isn't simple what we do. We're a chiddush. That we read it again, we repeat it.
Shabbos Hanukkah.
Yeah, or it's like that, or Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, or Shabbos Yom Tov.
Yeah.
So it's not so simple that we have to dafka reread. But anyway, here it says the question is, does he count for an aliyah? So of the 7 aliyahs, so one says yes, why not? The other one says, I'll tell you why not. Because he's not really reading. He's just reading for a side reason, that it should not seem like the Navi is as holy as the Torah. That's it, but the chivin the mishum kabbal Torah who the manana lo salak, since it's only because of the reason of kabbal Torah, it's not be'etzem, it's not inherently, so that's why it doesn't count. So machlokes if the maftir aliyah in the Torah counts for one of the 7, or you have to call 7 besides him, and he's going to be the 8th. Tomorrow is a kasha as a raya. Meisvei a kasha from a brisa. It says after benavi lichos be'esem psukim. How long do you have to read? How many psukim do you have to read in the navi? How long does the Torah have to be in the navi? So it says
21.
What?
21.
Yes, that's what it says, right? That it shouldn't be less than 21 psukim. Why is that? Because 7 aliyahs, each one reads 3 psukim. 7 times 3 is 21. So you get 21 psukim.
I mean, they're correlating it to the
Reading of the Torah,
To the
right?
minimum.
Right, the minimum. Of course, it's much more than 21 psukim, but the minimum, 7 times 3 will be a minimum kosher reading. The Misa, if it's true that the one who gets maftir doesn't count for the aliyah 7, you have to give 8. So it should be 24 because you have to give 8 aliyahs. You have to give the Misa, if it's true that what? That maftir, his aliyah doesn't count.
It's its own.
It's besides the 7. Esem Balbahavian. It should be 24 psukim. The answer is Shivim Mishum Kvod Torah Hu Kenegdo Nami Lo Boy. Even though he's reading, but it's not a real reading because it's only because of Kvod Torah. Like we just said, the only reason why he's reading is because we want to make that the Navi shouldn't be equal to the Torah. So that's not a reason. Even if you do have to read it, it wouldn't be a reason to make a parallel in the reading of the Navi that I should have to have 24 psukim.
Why are we saying 24 psukim? Sorry,
Anybody want to explain? Why how did 24 come in?
Because
Oh, because it's
times
extra
3.
7.
8 times 3.
8 times 3 is
Oh,
24.
you wait.
Because
But the only reason you're doing the extra 3 is to introduce us to make a split between the.
That's the
Torah
Gemara's
and
answer.
the
So
Navi.
you said the Gemara's answer.
The
Good. You said the Gemara's answer.
This whole Torah thing, didn't it come about because we couldn't learn from the Torah or something?
So it's very interesting. You're quoting Avedram. Avedram says the reason why we had the takana to read the Navi is because at one point there was there's no source for it. There's no source for it. I don't know where Avedram got it from. Avedram says that the reason why they made a takana to read the Navi is because at one point there was a gzera. The Goyim didn't let us read the Torah, so we read the Navi with him. There's no source for it. I don't know where he gets it from. There's no such source. No, not in the Shas, not in the Midrashim.
Besides Avedram. So why do we?
Because you read the Navi also.
no
Read the Navi.
historical-
You read the Torah. You read the Navi.
There's no historical evidence that
That there was
they
such a
ever did
gzera,
that.
right?
That they ever did that.
That there was such a gzera, right? They made a gzera. No,
But
read
they
the
did
Torah,
read the
but
Torah,
you,
they did
and
read
you,
it.
right?
It seems like if the Goyim wouldn't let us read the Torah, they wouldn't want us to read anything.
I would think so. But I just want to say that he says it without a source.
Uh-huh.
Very interesting, and everybody knows that reason. Everybody knows it.
Yeah, that's.
But what's wrong? That the Chazal made a takana to read the Navi. They made the Torah. They made a Chazal to read the Navi. And what are you going to say nowadays? Only because of the ancient
Yeah.
time that once upon
Yes.
a time. That's why we still have the whole thing of being a Navi. Once upon a time there was a Gzera. It would need a source. I'm very, I don't know.
So Torah was from the beginning of time.
From the whenever when they made a takana to be curious, they made also Navi to read.
No, because once there's a takana, then you don't usually you keep the takana.
Okay, there's no such Gemara. There's no such thing. So I don't know where it comes from. Why say such a thing? The Pasha says they made the kind to read the Navi. Okay, the Gemara continues. So we finished the sugya. The sugya is over as far as does he count or does he not count? And no, the Gemara doesn't paskin. Does he count or does it? Just the Taisus points out that we on a tiny sibur of a mincha that we only have 3 aliyahs and I guess the maftir that is doing like the Madama says that it does count.
So where does the sugya end? At
And
word
the
keneged?
and
No.
boy, Keneged Nami boy.
I thought that there was an exception, or maybe a couple of exceptions that are less than 21 minutes. The whole.
We'll see. That's the end of the Gemara. That's further, but our sugya is finished already. Does the maftir count? You're talking about how many psukim, but now we're talking about does the maftir aliyah count of the 7?
So it's a machlokus?
So it's a machlokus. We just finished the machlokus now. We left it at machlokus, and the Gemara stops machlokus. So what do? Taisa points out that on Tani Sibur by Mincha that we only have 3 aliyahs, and he gets the maftir. Dirshu Hashem b'yimatzo on a Tani Sibur. So we do like the mandam that he does count. So how come every Shabbos we make 7 plus 1? Taisa says to be Yosef Adashit also. Then why not? Because a lot of make suffer. Taisa says it's because really you consider 8 aliyahs. 7 would have been enough. But you're allowed to be Mosif if you want to. So okay, we'll do that. We'll back for the sheet also that says that it's not Ola, so we'll give another Aliyah. But on Tani Sibur B'Mincha, that you're not allowed to make Osafa. So then we do the Ikr Din.
You're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to be Mosif on Shabbos and a Mincha on a Tani, on the one you have 3. Sheni B'Chamishi, if Shabbos Mincha.
Because then it'll look like a different thing.
You're not allowed to make more than 3.
Only Shabbos you're allowed.
Only
to. I
Shabbos
see.
you're
Yeah.
Shabbos maybe on Tef and Yom Kippur, but
Shabbos
surely
is the
on
most.
so therefore.
The Gemara doesn't talk about mincha and tanas.
That you're not allowed to be Mosif. But it does say by Shabbos by Mincha, it says Monday, Thursday, Shabbos, ain't Mosifin. Over there it talks about
But this is talk about. I heard from somebody that make a din on a mincha tanas mincha. You only have to call 1 aliyah. It's no to call up 3.
We saw machlokas about that. We saw yesterday machlokas 1 or 3. We paskin 3. We paskin 3 it seems. So I hear you saying that's possible that you're allowed to be Mosif. That's a chiddush. I hear, but it doesn't say beferish that you're not allowed to be Mosif. But assumption that's what Taisvis seems to say. Taisvis and Amanal, which has to jump to the Taisvis. Here it is.
You're not allowed to be Mosif.
Chadamar Ola, v'chadamar ein Ola pasuk ben atam l'kamelan k'madam Ola. U'lekachanu nogim b'tanis b'mincha v'tisha b'av shashlichim maftir. You don't get 4 aliyahs. V'chim Yom Kippur b'mincha. Also, the third one gets an aliyah. Avol shabbos v'yom tovim Yom Kippur shachris maftir levi min aminyan. Why? The chivin shemut el hosif aleihem yichol anar olas esman again. I'll leave it to kuli alma. Yeah, via Allah k'madam ein Ola. You did good. Afi levi nami Allah k'madam Ola mikamakam en locha shavim mut el hosif. That's what it seems to say. So
what does it mean? Yecholim anu lasos.
we could do what we want to do according to everybody. We can make a minig that's Yotzi all the Shitas. Even if we pass that it's over, it's not a problem. So you made all suffer. But on days that you're not allowed to make all suffer, like Taisus understands that mincha.
So you don't have because the third aliyah will
Right. But if you'd hold like the Madam that says Eina Ola, you'd have to make another aliyah. You'd have to make 3 aliyahs, and then for the mafti, you have to call them up to the Torah also. And then you should be the mafta. The fact that we don't do that is because we hold minadin ola. That it counts for this. It counts for the number that you need. If you need 7, the mafta counts. You don't have to do 7 plus 1. You can do 7. Okay, top line. So this is Gleib Yaakov's question about we just finished Agav. This is a side point. We just finished that you have to have 21 psukim by the maftir because 7 times 3 that should be corresponding to the Torah. Maskif la. Rava, Varei, Olosechem Sfu. That is the Haftarah Parshas Tzav. The law having Asfin B'chad. It's not 21. I think I counted it was 19. Or maybe even less, maybe 17. The Karina, and we have a Haftarah that's less than 21. And also it has to point out there are many Haftarahs like that we have less than 21. Shani Yasam the Salakin Yana. That's different because it finishes a subject. Since it finishes a subject, you don't go into the next subject. You could stop. If it finishes a subject, you could stop right there. Just to point out, we have even one of 9 psukim. In Parshas Achrimos, Alok Ivnei Kushiyim, the whole of Torah is 9 psukim.
So what happened?
Because Salakin Yana. Since the subject is over, you're allowed to end the Haftarah less than 21 psukim. Are you happy with that?
The subject is over?
The subject is over.
Meaning what? Oh,
So-
you already have a theme.
And it's over. The theme is over.
And what are you not concerned about the 7 aliyahs?
You're not concerned about the 21 psukim. You're not concerned about the 21 psukim. 21 psukim.
Here, I see it. It's 17, And then they add the last two.
So it's
on a
19.
Positive, it's still only.
That's
19.
still 19, yeah.
Very good.
If it's not finishing a subject, may you not have less than 21? Sometimes, many times, I used to read before Rabbi Yochanan, and after he finished 10 psukim up with the Navi, he said, stop. 10 psukim is enough.
After 10?
After 10. So what happened? You need 21. The answer is, and it was still middle of a subject. The answer is, if they're doing Targum, they're translating it, like they used to do, and someplace. So then it's enough because it's too much. They have 21 psukim plus the Targum, that's like, 40.
And they do
40
pasuk by pasuk? How
Right,
do
yeah,
they do
one by it's going to come up next of you. So if you have to do one at a time, you can do a few psukim at a time. But you used to have Targum if anybody davened by Yemenite minion. So the Kriya Star takes a long time because the Balkori says a pasuk, and then the Targum says a pasuk, then the Balkori says a pasuk. It's at least double the time because they Targum each pasuk. Nowadays we don't do it, and Taisus points out that the Gemara says right away. If there's a Metorgaman, if there's a translator, so then you don't have to do so long. Taisus points out for me, you see that it's not a Chi of Mamish. It's not Mamish an obligation to translate, or else it wouldn't say that was a place which had a Targum. That means that before the Brisa said it's a nice thing to do, it's a nice custom. But if you don't have the custom, you don't do it. Like the Gemara says, the Brisa that says you have to have 21 psukim is a place which is no Torgaman. So Taisus points out that you don't always have a Torgaman. The custom is not to do Targum nowadays. Top right Taisus. The Tani of Tachlifa Bashmul, Lashana Valakum Shain Torguman of Makum Sheish Torguman Posek. It's enough to have 10 psukim if you're going to translate because it's going to be very long if you're going to have 21 psukim.
It doesn't give an amount.
It says 10. You have to have minimum of 10. It sounds like you have to have at least 10.
We may have just have 3.
No, we have
to 9 actually.
we have 10. We have 10 psukim.
So here too,
That's why the Gemara said before that you're going to have
3, 3, and 4.
One has 4. And who gets the aliyah and the
so here
shubah?
also would be 10.
So it's going to be connected the minimum psukim of this. Even though 7, you're going to have to have more. If you have 7 aliyahs of Shabbos, then you're going to have 21 psukim. You can only have 10 when you're going to have Mondays and Thursdays. When you have 3 aliyahs, you'll have 10 psukim. If you have 7 aliyahs, you can't have 10 psukim.
Yeah, on Shabbos.
No, so now there's a new question. When you have 7, why wouldn't you need 22? You don't need 22.
Why 22?
Why did we have 10?
Yeah, why do you have to have 10? The Gemara said the reason I saw Batlanim or I saw Mamoros. Well, I'm not sure what you're following, where you're going at.
You need a minimum of 3. So 3
minimum
times
of 3 aliyahs.
is 9.
Yes, but you have to have 10 psukim.
Why?
Because Asara Batlanim, Asara Mamoros, all kinds of reasons why we want 10.
Once you have 10, if you have more than that, you don't need an extra one. Okay, I got it. You don't need 22.
Why should you have to have 22?
Just like 9, you need an extra one. It doesn't matter. Right?
No. It's not a din in the extra one. It's a din in 10.
It's 10.
Right.
Once you have 10, it doesn't matter how many. If you have more, that's enough.
Good. The Mishnah has a long list of things that have to have a minimum of 10 people. What we call a minyan. It has to have 10 people. The way it says that ain pochas, ain. You don't do all these things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It happens to be 10 things. Pochas me'asara. That's to get the Mishnah. Maybe I'll just highlight that. Ain. All these things in between, less than 10. You can't do all these things. It's going to be less than 10. It's going to happen.
It happens to be 10 things too.
Happens to be 10 things.
Wow, nice.
Nice clue, remez. But a bris milah doesn't have to have 10 people.
You don't have to.
But you have to have 10 people for. It's a nice thing to have a nice person, nice, but you can make a bris milah with less than 10 people. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
No, that was.
So here's the list. Here goes the list. Here goes the list now. Ain person al shema. That's number 1. I'll just read it and then we'll go back. Don't get scared. Ain person al shema is number 1. Ain oven lefnei teva is 2. Ain nosen eskapayim is 3. Ain korin b'torah is 4. Ain maftein b'navi is 5. Ain os and mamon moshav is 6. Ain omen birchas avelim 7. Tanchumi avelim 8. Birchas chasanim 9. Ain mizamnin b'shem 10. All these things you can't do with less than 10 people. What are these things? Ain person al shema. So very, very interesting. No one says what it means. The Gemara, the Mishnah doesn't say what personal Shema means. The big machlokes Rishonim what it means, and some pshatim. The Rambam says that the shliach tzibur is motzi the birchas kriya Shema. Means after Baruch Hu, the shliach tzibur says aloud, then everyone's quiet. And it's motzi everybody. That's called personal Shema of the Rambam. And you can't do that. You can't be motzi if you have less than 10 people. Some places do that, but most places don't anymore. There's another pshat that Rashi says if people came late, they missed the minyan. So you do a kaddish with a baruch Hu, and people do this nowadays. This is very, very that after davening, someone says baruch Hu. Where does that come from? So where does it come from? Some say this is what the personal Shema means, but they didn't just say baruch Hu once upon a time. They would say kaddish and baruch Hu, and then also the whole birchas yotzer until yotzer moros. They would say the whole first baruch Hu also. So it's a little different that people do nowadays, but that's what they based one of the pshatim over here. So
why is that the equal one to be catch up with? What about
I would ask the other way. What have to do Yotzer Moros for?
Yeah.
So some say maybe the reason is because the Kaddish that you do in Yotzer Moros, also you should have a minyan for that. That's a machlokes. Do you say that without a minyan? The Ramah says you could say it, but maybe also say together with the trup that people, it shouldn't sound like you're saying kedusha, that you're not doing it. You're not saying over what the malachim do, but you're not coming to be mekadosh Hashem right now. When you say the regular kaddish in Chazaros Hashatz, over there you're not just saying what the malachim are doing. You're doing it right now. You're mekadosh Hashem right now, just like the malachim do. We're going to do when right now. Kadosh. So that's you
that's what we do.
That's what you're doing. But by Yotzer Moros, by Yotzer Or, you're not saying over what the malachim do.
How about Kaddish Siddur?
That's also machlokes. Are you just saying over what the malachim are doing, or are you doing it now? The Pasha says you're just saying over what the malachim are doing, and therefore you don't need a minyan. Yeah, both of them. Yotzer, kedusha the Yotzer, kedusha the Siddur, only kedusha of Chazaros Hashatz. That's where that's where you need a minyan. Here it says, "Ein personal Shema." You can't do this priest Shema. We just have machlokes what that means. And over Lufnei Teva to have Chazaros Hashatz. And less than 10 people. In Kohen Torah, you don't have a Kriya Torah, public reading if you have less than 10 people. In Rav Tir B'Navi, you don't do the Torah less than 10 people. And no some Naman Moshe. So we finished about the shul already. The 5 things were about the shul. Now we go to some of the things about Avelis. And no some Naman Moshe. Naman Moshe was a custom once upon a time that they would on the coming back. Rashi says on the way to, but there's the Gemara's mashma someplace else that it means coming back. On the way back, after they buried the mace, so they would stop 7 times and like make us pay them.
We do a couple.
We don't do that.
So nowadays
we
don't.
Kaddish and stuff.
So they do Kaddish nowadays. They do 7 times. They stop 7 times.
I don't think it's 7.
So it's not. So that is. So it's not.
It's after the burial.
So Rashi has said on the way to the burial. Rashi does say on the way to the burial. The Gemara in Baba Basra is much for that it's after the burial. Rashi over here says Rashi sounds like it's on the way. But the Gemara, but here it says 7 times, and it's not, and it's for Hespedim and to cry, and they don't do 7 times nowadays. So I don't think it's the same thing. But anyway, it says here.
It seems like there are no Hespedim. I've never seen Hespedim.
Right.
They say Kaddish.
Okay, but I don't think that's what they do nowadays. Okay, it continues, and that also only when there's 10 people. There used to be a bracha that they would say, and we don't do it nowadays.
It's not Hamakam?
No. Birchas Avelim was a bracha that they said also on the way back from the burial. And it's a bracha that ends off. So somebody would say, one of the congregation would say a bracha
to the Avelim, not the
to Hashem about the Avel. That Hashem comforts. Yes, and Hashem comforts the mourners. And there's a bracha that says in Ksubah stuff 8b over there. It says the nusach of the bracha, and we don't do it nowadays. Why not? I'm not sure.
That's be. I mean, simply speaking, that they are Mekayim Menachem Avelim by doing that. It's a more official way of doing it.
I don't think it's called. I'm not sure. You're saying the possibility that's called Menicham, but it doesn't call it. No, it says here that they had Menicham Avelim then also for 7 days. That's not this. There's a Birchas Avelim, and it says you have to have 10 people in order to do that. Tanchumi Avelim. Of course, there's a lot of you could comfort the mourner, whether they do that, but one person. But Tanchumi Avelim would be some kind of a public kind of a. Rashi calls it that they were standing in a shul, and also that people do nowadays some kind of a shul, a little different than used to do in the old days. You have to have 10 people.
You wouldn't do that with
You wouldn't do less than 10 people. Birchas Chasanim, what we call Sheva Brachas, it has to be also with 10 people. Ve'ein mezamnin b'shem, and also not a zimun that you have 10, that you can say Hashem's name. The Baruch Elokeinu Shechalom Yishalom is only if you have 10 people. All these things, ain,
because they're 10 people, you say the same.
and if you have less than 10 people, you don't say Hashem's name. So this is this. Ain mezamnin b'shem pachas me'asar.
Well, what about bris milah when you add things?
What do you add? What?
No,
That's piyut, all kinds of piyutim. What is that? That's not going to
Do
be.
yourself also probably, no?
Yeah, that's nothing to do with the shame. Here, saying the Baruch Elokeinu Shechalom Yishalom, you only do
So all
if
you
you have
need
10
is
people.
here, or like Kriyas Torah, 2 people already were. I mean, if you have only 6 that are really healed, and then you can have 4 other people that just
Daven already.
just daven already and just
Filling in.
filling in.
I don't know. Taisa here talks about fill-ins if you have this person al Shema, that the person came late and he didn't have a minyan, you can do Baruch Hu for him. Does it how many people do you have to have that didn't have the Baruch Hu yet? The custom is even 1 person,
Yeah.
Really?
right? What's the
Usually a
custom?
guy comes in, he starts doing.
And he says that I didn't, I missed. So, but Taisa talks about maybe you have to have 7, maybe no. But Taisa 3, and then it moves down that Rashi someplace says even 1.
Even 1.
Rashi, Talmid Rashi Pirsha Mishmo, Tafilu B'Shvalachat Shel Shama Yachol Lemhem Lifros Al Shema.
That's what we do by Kedusha, when the person comes in late for that.
That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about.
Oh, that he makes his own.
He makes his
Then
own
even one.
and everybody
I
else.
feel the B'Shvalachat Shel Shama
He
Yachol
joins
Lemhem
in with
Lifros Al
9
Shema.
others.
One,
He joins in with 9 others.
9 people do him a favor that he should be able
Do him a
to
favor.
say. But it's very strange that people sometimes they do after every davening Baruch Hu. What if everybody was on time? Nobody was late. What do you think Baruch Hu again for? That's a strange thing.
Yeah. Right, but so we have that by Rabbi Schlenger sometimes at Friday night that nobody comes late. And we still stay, Baruch.
Because minhag becomes minhag. Yes, isn't that a club?
I don't know. What is it? So we're saying a Baruch Hu? What are you saying Baruch Hu for? He has every
Because there are
said.
many times that there's somebody who walks in late.
So let him say Baruch Hu, you know. I don't know.
Oh.
Taisa doesn't seem like that. Taisa talks about maybe you need 7, maybe 6. Okay, 3, 1. But none? Where does that come from? I don't know. I'm not saying not to do it. I'm not saying it's a chiddush. Say you don't Baruch Hu again, but nobody needs it.
So Kriyas Torah also that you don't need the 10 people. That have to be.
I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know. Taisa talks about I didn't look into it. I don't know.
But also in benching, I thought that the extra persons to make it up to 10 have to have some kind of shaykhs to the bench.
That the Gemara talks about, yes, that the people who are going to be part of the, yes, that's true. What Levi Yaakov was saying, in order to have a zimun, then those in the Baruch Elokeinu, so that the Gemara says they have to have eaten something, or even something. That's true. That's
Like
true.
Kriyas Torah, I can see how they'll hear the Torah. So
Even if they heard it already before.
yeah, so they'll be learning. I mean,
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't know.
They usually tell the guy have some designers that by.
Yeah. Yes. Even if he has vegetables, also good enough. Even the vegetables is good enough for 10, not for 3. For 3 is something else. Okay, we have to rush now very, very fast. But not immediately. How do you know that you have to have 10 people for all these things? So it's not going to say all these things, but it's the things that are double shebek kedusha. The beginning, some of the things in the beginning might have been a double shebek kedusha. I will be sanctified amongst Bnei Yisrael, and that's going to be a drasha to say you have to have 10. To call anything that's holy, a sanctity, sanctifying God's name, has to be should not be less than 10. How do you know that? What do you see in this pasuk? How do you see that it's 10? From where do you see that? The Tani Rabbi Chia Asya Toch Toch. There's a Gezer Shava. Here it says Besoch Bnei Yisrael. Over there, somewhat Korach, and it calls them also. It calls them. So now we know that this Bnei Yisrael is going to be an Eidah. What's an Eidah? By Korach, well, a lot of people, but we have another Eidah. It's not so many. Another, a second Gezer Shava. The Sif Hasan by the Meraglim. Ad Masayla Eidah Razos. And over there by the Meraglim, they were 10. Why? 12 Meraglim minus 2. Yeshua and Kalev were holy, and they weren't the Eidah Ra. But you see that an Eidah is 10. So we see that the Bnei Yisrael means 10 people. When Nikdashti, you have to have 10 people. That might answer.
So it's a double Gezer.
It's a double Gezer Shava. The next one is so you can't have this standing and sitting, stopping stations on the way to the Kfura, after the Kfura, to be maspid, to cry. Less than 10 people. Why? When they would stop and start, they would make an announcement that you people sit and go. It's not fitting for a small amount of people to make such a kind of a official announcement. Here it uses the word yikarim. It's not after the word yikarim. It's more like the whole ma'amad that you say everyone sit, everyone stand. That's more when you have tzibur. When it's a few people, then it's not fitting.
Yikarim here is like honor.
Which word yikarim means honorable people, dear people.
Yeah.
La'avoracha means not derech eretz. It's not in place. Ve'lo me'birchas avelim me'birchas chasanim. What is birchas avelim? My birchas avelim. The Gemara answer is birchas rechavim. You're supposed to know what that means, but you have to look into
square, right?
Right. So they have to look into Maseches Kesubos of Chesam and Beis, and over there it says that the birchas rechava is over there. It says what it is, and it's a bracha that we don't do nowadays. The Rush brings down from the Gaonim that we don't do it anymore. I'm not sure why not. This next dalet is a mistake. This dalet is nothing to do. There, would be a continuation. It has nothing to do with each other. It's a new point. I'm Rabbi Yitzchak bar Rabbi Yochanan. Birchas avelim ba'asor, ve'en avelim min minyan. Birchas chasanim ba'asor, birchas chasanim min minyan. We said that birchas avelim has to have 10 people, and we said birchas chasanim have to have 10 people. The sheva birchas you have to have 10 people. But there's a difference. Does the oval count? Does the chasan count? The oval does not count. You have to have 10 people besides the oval. But by the chasan himself could count as part of the 10 in order to have sheva birchas. Also in the Baruch Elokeinu, why not less than 10? Even the name in the Baruch Elokeinu, you can take out this lamed also. The Gemara in Baruch says that you don't say Lelokeinu, since you have to say in the Baruch Elokeinu, but it's a Me'asar la Baruch Har. It's not derech eretz that you say that we should bless our God, and there's so few people. When you want to say like a Ma'amad Mechubad, we're going to bless God, so it has to be you have at least 10 people that it should be chashuv representation. But the Mishnah ends off that you also have to have 10 people when you are. I forgot if I said this in the Mishnah. I guess I did. Besides having 10 people, there's another requirement. One of them has to be a Kohen. 9 plus 1 Kohen means you have to have at least 1 Kohen. What's karkos when you're being poda? Karka. There was land that was sanctified, consecrated. Somebody consecrated land, and you want to now redeem it. So you have to evaluate how much it's worth in order to give the money to hektish, and then the land is going to become redeemed. You have to have 10 people to evaluate it. One has to be a Kohen, and also Adam Kyotze Behen. Also, we'll see soon. We'll get to that soon.
This karka is valuing land.
Evaluate land of hektish in order to redeem it. How do you know you have to have 10? And one of them has to be a Kohen. Over there, if you look in the parsha about redeeming, so it says 10 times the word Kohen. So you have to have 10. But you don't need 10 Kohanim. Why not 10 Kohanim? One is telling you have to have a Kohen. And then the fact that it says a Kohen again and again and again is on the contrary. It's coming to say you don't need a Kohen. If it would say Kohen one time and then say you need also more people, you'd understand that it means the same as the first. But since it comes to say again and again, it's like called a double negative, so it comes to say you don't need a Kohen. And therefore, only one has to be a Kohen, the other none can be Israelim. The more ends off for the Kasha, the Ema, Chamisha Kohanim, the Chamisha Israelim. You can make this whole logic is good, but that means that the first one that it says is necessary, second one is not necessary. So the second one could be Yisrael, but the third one is necessary again. You want to say maybe you need a Kohen. It's not called a Mirach Hamir anymore. So the third one would have to be a Kohen, and the fifth one has to be a Kohen. The seventh one has to be a Kohen, and then the even numbers will be unnecessary. That's going to be a double negative. That's going to be a Mirach Hamir. So if so, we should have to have 5 Kohanim out of 10. But the Gemara says it's not true. It's nice kasha, no teretz, but it's not true. Even though we don't have a teretz, it's not true. You only have to have 1 Kohen, and the rest could be Israeli. And the Gemara ended off. Adam ki yotze bohem. I'm sorry, we're a little bit over time. 2 minutes. Adam ki yotze bohem. And the Gemara doesn't say Adam Yikodesh sounds like when you're redeeming a person. A person is not consecrated. You can't consecrate a person to redeem a person. You don't do that. There's no such thing as consecrating a person. It's talking about that he didn't consecrate himself, but he consecrated his value. I'm donating my value to the Beis HaMikdash. So he's not holy, but you have to know how much he's worth in order to be able to give that value. If somebody says my value is upon me, it means I obligate myself to give my value to the Mikdash. You have to evaluate him like the slave market. How much would he get for his?
Again, it has to be 10 people.
Oh, 10 people and 1 Kohen.
1 Kohen.
9 people and 1 Kohen. 10 people, one of them are Kohen. Oh, how come?
Because he's connecting. He's
To evaluate.
He's got to connect it to Hektish.
He's consecrating. This is being redeemed to get the money to Hektish. So you have to, one of them should be a Kohen. I don't know the logic. He's not a bigger businessman than anybody else, but you have to have a Kohen. The Eved Iskish Lekakos.
Represents the Hektish.
Okay, good. And it could be. And how come he has to have, what does it ever have to do with Karka? What's the drasha? Because the Eved is compared to Karka. The Pasuk says about Eved Kanani over there, it's talking about that you inherit them. They are inherited from generation to generation. So it says that the slaves, are like Chuza. It's like a territory. So therefore we learn out that since when you redeem land, you have to have 10 people and one is a Kohen, one of them is a Kohen. So the same thing by redeeming a person. Ad time. We'll be back in 1 minute, Bez Hashem, for Pirkei Avos. Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to stop apologizing for the delay because it's becoming pretty standard already, but I hope that we'll be able to keep on time. We're in Pirkei Avos today, and this is page 145 for those who have a text. It's on the screen, and the subject we were in was about learning Torah in one's youth, the benefit of learning when one is young, and we had many mishalim, many comparisons that the Medrash said. We didn't get explanation for the nuance of each different mashal. We had about if it's easy, if it's hard, if it's permanent, does it long lasting, does it a good shidduch kind of things. So I don't have exact pshat for each one, but the younger you are, as Rabbi Miller said, the younger you are, as we say, chaparayim, grab in. Because later on, the mind and the heart, they don't take it in doesn't penetrate and remain as much as when a person is younger. If we continue, top line on the screen, when a person learns Torah when he's young, so then the Torah becomes absorbed into his blood, I guess, the dama, into his blood, absorbed into his blood. I don't think it means literal, but it gets absorbed into him, and when he speaks of it, it comes out very clear. But
because he learned in his youth.
Right. But if he learns Torah in his older age, so then it doesn't get absorbed into his blood, then it doesn't come out so clear when he explains it. That's how the mashal goes. That's how the saying goes. This is not a Gemara. This is a saying, it seems, from people. If you didn't desire them in their youth, how are you going to acquire them in your old age? So that seems to be a saying of people that if you didn't work, that's what the words. If you didn't desire them in your youth, how will you achieve it in your old age? And again, as Rabbi Miller would say, I like always to quote him that when you're young, 75, chaparayim, before you're 76. And goes for 95 also. He has a bigger heart, a bigger brain. The brain is able to accept things. His memory is better. His heart is open. We had all the ideas before that one person has different things in his heart, so it's hard to get them out. All the different nuances which we didn't have to learn. Are you saying the fact that it says he has to do with the wanting them? I would have thought that means you don't want it. So you didn't want it. You didn't do anything about it. You didn't learn. So how you'd expect to get it in your old age? Sifri Parshas Eikev, Reb Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Harei Omer, Nefesh Sava Tavus Nofes. זה תלמיד שלא למד מתחילתו. ונפש רעבה, כל מאמר. So this is a pasuk, I guess a Mishlei, sounds like Mishlei. We'll jump to Os Lamed on the bottom. Mishlei 27. It says, seems to say, the simple pshat seems to say that someone who's satiated, so he, even sweet things are disgusting to him. Maybe let's get the translation here to be able to say it correctly. If we look up Mishlei 27, Tavus Nofes. Tavus is like the trample. Nofes is like Nofes Tzufim, like something sweet nectar. Let me try to find this. This is Mishlei 27. Tavus is like the trample. I think it means like to show disdain for it. 27. Nefesh vayot tavus nofes, and nefesh reiva kol ma'amasot. A soul that is satiated will trample the sweet thing. But someone who is hungry, then even something which is bitter is also sweet. When you're hungry for something, so then even something which doesn't taste good, it also tastes
When you're
good.
hungry for anything.
Right. He's hungry.
Yeah.
He's hungry. He's starving.
Hungry.
And then he tastes something, it's delicious.
Yeah.
But someone who is full,
Even something sweet will be sort of disgusting because it's full.
the Gemara brings down a Gemara that says this point. It brings down a Gemara in Sanhedrin that the Gemara talks about the idea. If somebody says, "What can I eat together with the bread?" So take it away from him. If he does,
Together with the bread.
if someone says, which bread can I have on the bread? Take away the bread. He doesn't deserve the bread. If he needs a spread, Rabbi Miller used to talk about that why do you need all these different spreads? Like the bread itself is delicious. The Gemara over there says that the Gemara says that's not considered the Divrei Torah, it's Dvar B'Telem over there, the Gemara says, but the Gemara reads down says, if someone, he needs something to make the bread tasty, so he doesn't, he's not hungry enough for the bread. That's the idea. Anyway, what does it say? Based on this pasuk.
Rav, didn't we have a Gemara the other day? I mean, you often quoted that a person always has room for dessert. You know, we just had the Gemara that even if it's full.
Yes, it's true. It's surely true that it's easier to eat sweet things that are sweet. But the point is that when he has the bread, then he doesn't want to eat it by itself. So why not? The bread is not good.
No, I'm not talking about. I'm referring to the actual what we're in, not what you said about the bread. I'm saying that. This is saying that if you're full, so then
it seems that there is a limit. The pasuk in Mishnah also says that don't eat too much honey because you'll vomit, which is true. You know, it's a physical fact also. When a person eats too much sweet, it gets nauseous.
Okay, so that's too much. But here we're talking about satiated. This person's satiated. You often say that person always has room for dessert. I mean, I think you're quoting that Gemara that we saw a couple of days ago.
Right, in Megillah, right. But so
I was going to ask you about that in Megillah. Is that I thought you always quoted it as dessert, but I thought the way I heard it was, without seeing it inside, was it said that not necessarily limiting it to dessert, but any food. That if a person sees has a desire for that food, then he has room for it.
Let's look. If I can find it, 1 second.
I may have heard it. It may have been misquoted the way I heard it. So I've been wondering it because you quoted it as dessert, and I'm not sure which way is correct.
I'll try to find it if I could.
But again, when you find it, I'm just asking on Mishlei. Mishlei here seems to be saying that, you know, when you're satiated, even the sweetness you'll trample. Like, in other words, you're not interested in the sweetness, which seems to contradict that Gemara. I'm not saying which is right.
It seems that there's a limit. Even for that, there's a limit also, and it doesn't just mean that he's satiated. It doesn't mean that he's full, that he had a good meal. It means that he's full. So like it's full. There's probably. I'm just suggesting that it means that there's also a limit to that also. The Gemara is in Megillah 7b. Over there it says, when I left the house of Rabbah to go to this person to give him the shalach manas, so I was full, savannah. When I got there, they gave me 60 dishes, and one of them was like a patros, something like that. And I ate it all, and the last one was this patros, and I even wanted to eat the plate after that. And that's what the Gemara says, two sayings. One is that the poor man is hungry and he doesn't realize it. And the other expression is Rav Chola Basima Shliach, there's room for sweets. The Basima. Basima means something which is usually the translation is Rashi over there says sweet. That's why I called it dessert over there. But you're right that it's not after dessert. What?
Wasn't this a pot roast?
That's what it seems to say. Sweet Kedar. They called it over there.
Sweet
Slikego. Okay, the saying goes over there that Rav Kula B'Sum Shchit, there's always room for something sweet. But here we're saying, but Yom's pointing out that this seems to contradict. So I'm suggesting maybe here it's that there's a limit for that also.
Uh-huh.
And the 60 that Abaya said is definitely a l'chora. It's going to be a exaggeration. The number 60 is very often used as an exaggeration. So let's see what he says over here. That which it says nefesh shvei atavos nofes. There's a talmid shelo lamad mitchilaso. Very interesting. Someone who did not learn in his beginning. That's the person who he doesn't appreciate the sweet. But nefesh ve'eva kamar masok, but somebody who is hungry, then everything even bitter is sweet. Zem mishalamad mitchilasa. That's very interesting. It would have been the opposite. We would have thought that somebody who did learn, he's the person who's full, and the person who did not learn, he's the person who's hungry. So the way he's quoting here is very strange. Why is he called that he's nefesh ve'eva if he did not learn? So what is he full about? And the person who did learn in his youth, why is he hungry? That's interesting how he's quoting it.
No, just one small.
Yeah.
How good it is.
Yes, but the question, yes, but that's not the mashal. The mashal is when someone's hungry, so then he appreciates even the bitter, and he's sweet to him. But someone who's full, so then even the thing which is sweet, he doesn't appreciate. So how does that fit into the point? So here it does say in the parentheses, "Uviyalkut garas lahepach," that is the opposite gersa, which would have made more sense. That the person who did, this would be a mamish opposite of what the Sefer is trying to say. That someone that did not learn in his youth, he's hungry, and therefore everything is sweet. And someone that did learn, so then he gets full and he doesn't appreciate it anymore. So I'm just saying that there are two gersos over here. One of them, I understand the mashal, but the question is if the nimshal is going to be true, that the person who did not, all these gemaras we had till now, the person who did not learn in his youth, he's the one who has more trouble. The person who learned in his youth, he's more ahead of the game. And here, this gersa, depends how you read it. According to one gersa, is going to say that the person who did not learn in his youth, and he's hungry for the Torah, so he's going to have everything sweet. Even the thing that's difficult is going to be sweet for him. And the person who did learn, he's a person who doesn't appreciate it. So that's against all these other Gemaras. If you read the gifts that he has, so it's in line with the rest of the Gemaras we learned till now, but I don't get the mashal. The mashal of the one who's full, the one who's hungry, doesn't seem to make sense. So I don't know which gersa to choose and how to.
Well, the one that even though the old person will be hungry, it's going to be like on an old parchment. It's not going to.
So you say that he will be hungry for it. It'll be sweet.
But
how
much of it will he keep?
How could he keep it? And it's difficult for him, and it's hard to change. Okay.
We get all excited. Look how much we're absorbing now.
You're absorbing a lot. See how much you're absorbing.
Shabbos stuff 12. Amru Rabban Kamed Abayim Mishmei Rabbi Yirmiyah. The low kibla. Yosef Rabban Amru Rabban Kamed Abayim Mishmei Rabbi Yochanan Kibla. There was a certain statement over there. He doesn't even bring down what the statement was. It was a certain statement that they told Abaye in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah, but he didn't accept it. He didn't take it as a truth. But then later on, Ravin came and he said it in the name of Rabbanan. I'm sorry. They said it in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. I'm missing some words over there. But then they told Abaye the same statement, but not in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah, but the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was a much bigger authority than Rabbi Yirmiyah. So then Kibla, then Abaye accepted it. And Abaye said, wow, I missed out. If I would have merited, I would have learned this originally. Means when it was originally from Rabbi Yirmiyah, I would have accepted it. I wasn't Zocha and I pushed it away, and I didn't have it until now.
Why did he not accept Rabbi Yirmiyah?
He didn't consider him as a
good
authority.
Is that right? I thought because we only seen it from the later perspective where they were.
Rabbi Yirmiyah surely is great, but they talk about it in relation to Abaye. He didn't consider him an authority to accept a certain statement that he said. But Rabbi Yochanan he did. So he said halavai that I would have would have accepted it earlier. And the Gemara says about Gomra, what's the difference?
Because why? Because Rabbi Yochanan said it.
No, that's the reason.
So Abaye didn't appreciate it, and so he didn't think much about it, and then he didn't really have it.
He didn't accept it. He didn't accept it as a truth.
He didn't accept it, and then when it was said, when he heard it from the rabbis in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, he regretted that he didn't accept it earlier because now
he sees that as
true. It
true.
would have been like in my youth. I got it.
I thought you got the end already. So that's what the Gemara is going to say now. So far, the Gemara says that he now accepted it as a truth, and he felt bad that he didn't accept it earlier.
Yeah. But there's no regret on that he didn't accept Rabbi Yirmiyah's.
Not because it was a Yirmiyah, because he didn't have it earlier. And the Gemara says, I should have, if I would have been Zocha, I would have accepted it earlier. And the Gemara says, what's the difference? Well, now he got it. And it seems there was no practical application that he missed out.
Because now he learned it. Yeah,
Now he learned it, and nothing happened. It wasn't like he made a mistake in Allah or anything like that. So what do you lose out? The answer is nafkamina, the Gersa the Yankusa. That the difference is that he learned it when he's young. That's what it means. Gersa is learning the Yankusa when he was a child. To learn something, he wasn't a child then either. You see also, like Rabbi Miller says, that to learn when you're young doesn't only mean as a child, because here Abaye,
Right.
when he was already arguing with Rabbi Yamia, yeah, he
now
was.
he's 75.
I don't know exactly the dates. Abaye lived altogether. The Gemara said 60. We had the Gemara, they
Okay,
learned
he
till
was
60.
55.
But whatever he was already in authority of his own, and he said it would have been better if I would have had learned it earlier when I was younger. So Ger said the Ankusa. So you see that try the Chaparine, the earlier the better. Whatever you learn in your youth, whatever as old as you are, is going to be better. It's going to sit better, be settled, remember it, be impressed by it more than in your older age.
Rob, if I missed part of the, first of all, I just want to point out that it looks like you were still recording.
Oh, thank you. Let me just take care of that. 1 second, please. Why don't I see this now? 1 second, please. Thank you for